Hello everyone! In this video, we'll learn how to draft facings for cutout necklines and armholes, similar to those in our basic block mockups or princess line patterns. Prepare the front basic block with one waist dart, the back basic block with a shoulder dart, and have 13 x 13 dot paper ready. Above all, make sure the notch on the front shoulder aligns with the back shoulder dart. If it doesn't align, adjust the front shoulder by marking the correct location of the back dart as shown here. Now let's draft the facing patterns. Please prepare 13 x 13 pattern paper. Facings are used to cleanly finish the raw edges of a garment, especially along cut-out necklines, armholes, curved hemlines, or any style lines where the fabric is exposed. Instead of leaving those edges unfinished, we use a single layer of self fabric to cover and reinforce them. This not only improves the look of the garment but also helps maintain its shape. As always, begin by drafting a vertical guideline for the center front along the right side of your dot paper. Align one of the dots with the center point of the neckline. We'll be tracing just slightly below the bust level, the apex level, so you don't need to worry about the lower portion of the block. Now, place the center neck point on one of the dots and align the center front line with the vertical guideline. Then trace the outline of the basic block, including all necessary markings and information. Facings can vary in width and shape, but they are generally between 1.5 and 2.5 inches wide. Before drafting anything else, use a ruler to define sharp corners. Corners are sometimes missed or appear rounded due to the soft edges of the paper. For this demo, I'll use a 2-inch facing from the side neck point, measure and mark 2 inches along the shoulder seam, then draw a perpendicular guideline from that point. At the center front, you may choose to make the facing slightly wider if desired. You can keep it the same width as the shoulder or increase it slightly. I'll use 2¼ inches for this demo. From the center front neck point, measure and mark 2¼ inches. Then draw a perpendicular guideline from that point. We're going to trim off 1/16 of an inch at the shoulder and draft a straight line to the side neck point. We're not changing the neckline shape at all. This small adjustment helps the facing lie flat and fit closely to the bodice. Just imagine the edge of the facing is cut on the bias, so it naturally pulls in a bit, helping it stay in place without stretching or loose. Now we will use the French curve ruler to draw the facing shape. For this type of separate facing, you need to follow the same angle as the neckline. First, find the part of the French curve that matches the neckline curve. Then, move the ruler diagonally like I'm showing you until the curve lines up with the neckline angle. Use that section of the ruler to draw your facing line and make sure it smoothly connects to the guideline you drew earlier. There is no fixed length for the guideline, so it's up to you to decide where the facing line should merge. Start by drafting a light line, then step back and evaluate it. Make adjustments as needed until you're satisfied with the shape. Keep in mind, you'll need to walk through and refine this line later when you draft the backside of the facing, so this is not your final version yet. Now, let's begin drafting the armhole facing. As before, your first step should be to clearly redefine the corner. Let's use the same method we used for the neck facing. First, mark a 2-inch point on the shoulder line to set the armhole facing width. Next, draw a perpendicular guideline. Then, trim 1/16 of an inch from shoulder, the perpendicular guideline you just drafted. From that point, draw a line to the shoulder tip. Be careful not to change the armhole length. Now, measure 2 inches down from the armhole and mark the point. Then, draw a perpendicular guideline from that mark. From this point on, we'll follow a similar strategy as before. Using the French curve ruler, I'll look for the section that best matches the angle of the armhole curve. I'm going to extend the perpendicular guideline a bit longer. This will give us more space to work with, especially since the armhole line coming from the shoulder is fairly straight. A longer guide will help us place the curve more accurately. Now, using the French curve ruler, find the part that best matches the angle of the armhole curve. Then, slide the ruler down diagonally, like I'm doing here, and start drawing the line lightly. You probably won't get the full curve in one go because the French curve ruler is smaller than the full facing shape we need, so just draw it in small sections, and keep adjusting and refining the line as you go. Okay, now let's trim 1/8 of an inch from the side. Mark a point 1/8 of an inch away from the perpendicular guideline we drew earlier. Then draw a line from that point to connect with the armhole. One important point I want to highlight is this. First, you can start this process earlier before the shape is finalized. Second, it's crucial that the perpendicular guideline from the side seam is long enough to complete this step properly. We haven't finished the front facing yet, since we still need to check it with the back facing. But before we move on, let's add some important information to this piece. First, mark the grain line. For facings, the grain line follows the original bodice grain line. You can use the direction of the grain line dots as a guide. I'm using a marker so it's easier for you to see, but you should use a pencil until your work is completely finalized. For now, let's simply label right next to grain line what it is. Front neck facing. Follow the direction of the dots, that's your grain line direction. Now, let's set the front facings aside for a moment. We'll come back to this piece when we work on the back facing.